But last night, Reform UK performed admirably, some might say, in the Blackpool by-election, finishing less than 1% behind the Conservatives. That's got to worry the Tories. That's got to worry Rishi Sunak. But are they just hemorrhaging votes from the Conservative Party, the other leading right-wing party, the leading right-wing party, I should say?
Joining us now is the leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, who, I mean, goodness me, Richard, have you been to sleep?
No, to be honest, I haven't, but it's all right. Coffee and chocolate, and we're absolutely fine. You referred earlier in your introduction to excitement, and last night for us was a very exciting evening. It was neck and neck for about 2 hours. We thought we'd just pipped it and then not quite sure. But look, the reality is we've succeeded with our best ever by-election result by some margin, significantly ahead of our national polling average. Many people in the media have now got egg on their face. They said we couldn't do it. You know, we were a virtual party. Well, we've just proven them completely and utterly wrong. And look, the Tories vote collapsed from about 50% to 17%. I mean, that is a huge collapse. And we're the party that's on the up. They're the party that's on the way down.
Let's be real, though, Richard. All you're doing is making a Labour government more likely, far more likely, indeed. You're unlikely to get many MPs, if any at all, at a general election. So what exactly is the game plan here? Just destroying the Conservative Party's chances and putting a Labour government in?
Let's be very clear. They don't have a sort of arrogant entitlement to govern. You actually have to perform. We trusted them back in 2019 when we stood down. They betrayed the promises. They betrayed us on Brexit. They betrayed us on immigration. So they have to be punished. And look, there's no difference
But hang on, you don't have enough support, though, to do it properly, do you? You do have enough support to fill the House of Commons with your elected representatives. So what's the point?
The point is the two main parties are two forms of socialism: high taxes, high government spending, ever worse public sector outcomes, no growth, mass immigration. It's a disaster for the country. Democracy is better, Emily, when voters have got more people to consider, more debate to look at, more discussion, and that's what we represent. And frankly...
Richard Tice, I think we'd all accept that the country is going to see either Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. I'm actually interested in your personal view. Who would you rather have in number 10?
I think they're both a disaster for the country, frankly, because they're both forms of socialism. And unless we change course, we are heading towards disaster.
Go on, Richard, pick one, if you had to. If you had to pick one.
With the greatest of respect, I'm not going to pick one. I think they're both disastrous. Look what Sunak's done to the country. We know that Starmer doesn't know what a woman is. I mean, the whole thing's just preposterous. That's why we need proportional representation. But look, unless we change course, then we're currently in the longest economic recession per person for 70 years. That will continue. We will continue to feel poorer, and the country will get worse and worse off. And frankly, it's got to change. We've got to stop mass immigration. We've got to stop this job-destroying rush towards net zero that's killing our jobs, killing our economy. And Britain needs reform in so many different ways, and that's what our policy agenda is all about.
Do you still chat to Tory MPs? Obviously, you have the defection of Lee Anderson, who is now a Reform MP. I am certain you would like more. You've said in the past that conversations are ongoing. Are you still hopeful of another Tory MP to defect to you before that general election?
Oh, I think that if the general election is in the autumn, then yes, I think there will be one or two, who knows, more defections. Obviously, they've got to meet our qualifications in terms of values and principles. But look, as individuals, there's lots of very nice people from all the different parties. But fundamentally, their policies have led us into a terrible place. And if you don't perform, you get fired. It's as simple as that, whether it's in a company or whether it's the people running the country.
Well, Richard, we know how popular the likes of Nigel Farage is among the Tory party faithful. I remember at the conference, gosh, he was mobbed. He was mobbed by all these Conservative members, which was very interesting to see. Could there be a plan somehow, to have a kind of hostile takeover of the Conservative Party, somehow get to the position where Nigel Farage or your great self are leading the Conservative Party?
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got to deal with this general election. But what we are saying to people is actually, and you look at results coming in Sunderland in the North East, for example, we beat the Tories 16 out of 25 wards. What I'm clearly believe is that now, in parts of the country like the North and the Midlands, we are rapidly becoming the main real opposition to the Labour Party. And at this election, our ambitious target, we want to get more votes cast than the Conservatives. That's our ambition. It's it's a stretch target, but there's no such thing as a wasted vote. Vote reform.
Are any of your candidates on the left?
Say again.
Are any of your candidates? You've selected loads of candidates. Are any of them on the left? I mean, perhaps if you think if your target is to attract Labour voters, then presumably you're in chats with Labour MPs and saying, "Come on, you're welcome."
This is old school language. Our candidates are the candidates of common sense. Our candidates are the candidates of common sense to save Britain.
You have to have a bit of an ideological backing. I mean, where do you go with something like nationalisation of the railways? Where do you go with tax rates? Where do you go with all sorts of things? You need some kind of underpinning.
Well, if you look, we've got a 30-page contract that shows how you save Britain on our website, including, actually, with regard to things like some of the monopoly utilities, like water companies, there's a better model. We think of 50-50, 50% public ownership, 50% owned by British pension funds with decent private sector management. That's a much better model than the current model, which has led us towards, frankly, polluting disaster. So in certain areas, you might say that's sort of old school Labour. I just think it's common sense.
Well, there you go. Thank you so much, Richard Tice. We're going to leave it there. Leader of the Reform Party UK, who did pretty well up in Blackpool.
Well, I mean, the Labour Party got nearly 60% of the vote. I'm just going to bring in a reality check there.
No, nearly the second party. Nearly the second party.
I think it was like 10,000 to 3,000? I mean, you know, they got 3,000 each.
I mean, I do take Richard Tice's point, absolutely, that it is good for voters to have a choice. But the way our system works is that it's going to be Keir Starmer or it's going to be Rishi Sunak.
I know, and I don't think Reform are going to get the proportional representation that they seek. If you think about it, the Liberal Democrats have been campaigning on this for years. They managed to get a deal when they went into coalition with David Cameron, actually, to have a referendum. It was kicked out then. I just don't think it's going to happen. I'd be really interested in what people think at home, actually. Do you think the two-party system is broken? Because the way our electoral system works, you're going to get Labour or a Tory government or a coalition with one of those at the helm. Is that fair? Is that right? I quite like first past the post. I'm old-fashioned on that. Richard Tice would tell me I was old-fashioned.
I think so. Maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned too, but let us know what you think. Do you think we need to shake up our electoral system?